Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you taking time out in your busy schedules to spend a little time with this, talking about connected product development. Again, the goal of the call really is to talk about some of the details, but give you the day in the life experience of a connected product development system and product development workflows. So Gladys kind of introduced this, but I'm going to go round robin just to get everybody's voice heard. We're gonna pass back and forth just a little bit. My name is Jason Barnett. I'm the Director of Manufacturing and PLM Sales. I've had my total tenure is about 24 years at Imaginet, and actually started the PLM business back in 2014, which is one of my points of pride. So Caleb, can you just do an intro quickly, please?
Sure thing. So hey everybody, my name's Caleb Funk, and I've been with Imaginet for just about 20 years now. Jason edges me out slightly. I started in the way back days as a mechanical engineer, mechanical designer on AutoCAD, doing detailing, drafting, things like that. And over the years, I've worked with a lot of different tools, primarily in the Autodesk space, mostly with the 3D modeling and then moving into the data management tools. That's kind of my area of expertise and focus.
All right.
Hey everyone, my name is Harper Coulter. I've been with Imaginet about 5 years. I am an industrial engineer, and so I primarily work with Fusion Lifecycle. I'm a PLM specialist. I've done a lot of implementation for our customers.
All right, thank you guys. Okay, so just a kind of a general agenda here. I'm actually going to talk about Imaginet and Autodesk just for a few minutes, just to kind of tee things up and let you know who we are and what's going on at Autodesk. I'll give a brief overview, high level, of PLM and PDM, kind of what those things are, and then I'll turn it over to Caleb and Harper, and they'll give you the actual kind of the details and then the experience of that day in the life and walk through the technology. At the end, we will have Q&A. So as you're going through, as we're going through the presentation, if you have questions, just put them in the panel, and then we'll have folks monitoring the panel, and then we can answer your questions at the end of the webinar. So so we'll get started here. So Imaginet Technologies is a wholly owned subsidiary of RAND Corporation, and RAND is a family of companies that acquires, creates, and resells and implements technology for our customers to drive efficiency, profitability, and quality. So we are the largest partner in North America. We've got an extensive reach of about 40 offices, over 400 employees. And I'm really proud to say our engineering group has more than 120 subject matter experts with really competency across all the major engineering disciplines. So we've got a pretty broad bench there. I think we're around 126 last time I checked. We do have several other divisions as well, but a couple of note. RAND 3D, they're a leading provider in Dassault software solutions, really their higher end solutions, and then they also do training for Dassault and parametric technologies. Our Ascent courseware it's a high quality professional training manuals. If any of you have taken Autodesk training, you've probably got a book that you've acquired during one of those classes that's in Ascent. That's actually part of our company. They also do manuals for parametric technologies and Dassault as well, but really high quality professional materials. And then we have several brands too, and too many to kind of go through here, but just a couple of note, I think, in this topic or in our conversation here is Imaginet Pulse is it's our robust system integration platform. So it's one that we use in some of our system integrations, which is one of the things we're going to talk about middleware today. And then Productivity Now, it's a powerful, customizable e-learning platform that actually even does testing and computer-based learning. So a few points that I'd like to bring out that makes Imaginet unique is we have a large team, but our team is focused on a really cross-functional yet focused groups, such as we have a group that does business consulting and solution architecture. We have a group that really focuses on data management. We have a group that focuses on design and process automation, simulation consulting, software engineering, and training and support. And we can cross-pollinate between all of these to build up some great solutions for our customers. The other one I would point out, because PLM is in Fusion Lifecycle will be a topic today, that is, as a specialized Fusion Lifecycle partner, we're recognized by Autodesk as one of the few trusted partners to design, implement, integrate, and support the Fusion Lifecycle platform. So proud of that. And really with our strong background in process management, industrial engineering, mechanical engineering, software engineering, it allows us to help our customers leverage our extensive experience with other types of customers to help them make better products faster at a lower cost. So I think we all know Autodesk created AutoCAD back in the 80s, and AutoCAD is still a primary design tool. I personally got started back in the 90s when Autodesk started buying some specialized tools and creating specialized tools like Mechanical Desktop and Sofdesk. Since then, Autodesk has developed a really powerful software capability that allows companies to build out complex enterprise workflows, from things like sales and engineering configuration, digital twins, computer-aided manufacturing, enterprise change and data management. And then they really most recently started to develop some easy to access and comprehensive cloud tools. So using the Autodesk tools, Imaginet as a technology systems integrator creates a lot of significant return on the technology investments, just through projects with customers like automation, globalization, digitization, always have a hard time saying that one, standardization, and then, of course, driving the adoption and training around those things. So for our topic today, the question is how do companies extend their engineering data out to the consumers in an efficient electronic way? And of course, I think a lot of folks have gotten used to working remotely. And as we talk through this, I hope you'll see that this type of a setup enables companies to kind of work together or remote. It's a very flexible setup. And what we find is that many of our customers have developed a lot of very good departmental tools, individual tools, but sharing data across the enterprise is really critical for them. So giving stakeholders access to project, product, and process related information in real time allows them to make very informed decisions, and that helps reduce what I call time wasting activities, and that's just finding data, doing rework, data entry or re-entering data in multiple systems, and things like in-person meetings. So this is one of the reasons why Autodesk has combined the Vault PDM solution with the Fusion Lifecycle PLM solution into a new product called Vault PLM. So Vault, and Caleb and Harper will certainly get into this deeper, but Vault essentially is really to manage CAD data and the processes around developing and managing that CAD data, where Fusion Lifecycle is more around enterprise type workflows. So things that span across multiple departments. And it's also, Vault is either hosted either on premise or in the cloud, whereas Fusion Lifecycle is a 100% pure cloud tool. So very easy to extend either in North America or globally. So let's talk about how this all looks in a typical business process. This is, I know it gets a lot more complicated than this, but generally this is what we see. So the PDM or the vaulting solution is used to manage that engineering and design data and manage CAD. The CRM and the ERP systems really ride on either side of that, where CRM is driving demand for more products, either through a market customer request or market demands, and then ERP is sitting on the other side, and that's really used to execute production and accounting and some of those quality features to make sure they're, the company's producing quality products. So because of the shortfalls or differences and breakdowns between all these systems, what we see all the time is Excel's used to massage and translate this data between these department based systems. So communication ends up happening through a series of emails, documents, and again, going back to some of those manual time-wasting activities, including the all the meetings and phone calls and emails and such. So, but PLM rides horizontally across all these systems. It really manages that cross-departmental types of processes, like new product introduction, where a lot of people have to make decisions, enterprise change management, and then quality management. And it does that all in a single system. And one of the things I like about it is that it allows for departments to use their specific system. So we're not trying to take CRM or ERP or any of those away. We're allowing those folks to use their systems to do their specific job, but through some of the connections and things that we can make, that all that information propagates up into a single source where people can get in and make very good decisions, because all that data automatically rides up into the system across the board. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Harper here and Caleb, and they'll start getting into some of the finer details. Harper, I think I made you presenter.
Yep. All right, Caleb.
Gotcha. And Caleb, I can't hear you if you're talking.
I appreciate that, because the mute button does get in the way of me actually talking. That was great there.
I figured that was
it. So, Jason, I appreciate that. I think that is a great overview of what we're looking at. And this is always something interesting to me because, again, I was a design detailer. I come from kind of a specific mindset, and it's for me, it's moving up into this. And I talk to a lot of people who live in that larger world and are moving, trying to figure out what my level is. And kind of my level, I'm going to talk about the product data management side of it. And this is a term you hear a lot, PDM. You hear about PDM tools and different things, but really it's a way for the engineering team to manage the product data that's within there. It's processes around it a little bit, but a lot of it is about product data. So you'll see here with product data, this is really common where I've got, this machine, in this case, it's a front-end loader we're looking at. But if I'm dealing with Inventor, I'm dealing with a 3D system, I've got assemblies, sub-assemblies, drawings based off of those parts that are part of those sub-assemblies, and all of these link together. The way back days when I had AutoCAD, a floppy disk was a great data management tool. But now that we have all of these relationships, I want tools that are going to manage those relationships between the files, control which users have access to those files, and then really have a control over file versions and revisions. So that's what I'm really focused on. There is some process around this, but really it's about controlling the files, who has access, and where they are. PLM's a little different.
Let's talk about what PLM is. I know we're hitting you with acronyms. So PLM is really used to connect data, people, and processes across, one, the product lifecycle, and two, just across all the departments in the organization. Now, PLM is great at three main things. It has very configurable workflows to help you manage your business processes. It's controlling your lifecycle of your items and your products with revision control and change orders and such. And then it's extending your data outside of engineering to the rest of the organization, to departments like manufacturing, procurement, quality, sales and marketing, and so on. Everyone is doing PLM, even if they don't have a true PLM system. And the problem is, the processes usually end up looking like this. Microsoft Excel and Outlook are really common PLM systems. They're often used for tracking and communicating changes. Sometimes pen and paper is still used for approvals, which makes it really difficult to continue operating in our COVID-19 world where we're not all in the office.
Yeah, and Jason had mentioned the idea of Excel massaging data between systems and passing it back and forth. And, like Harper just said, sometimes Excel is the system. So many clients I've been at, they'll show me a folder that's just nothing but Excel files of change orders. And how do those link back to the actual file that's being affected? It's being hand entered. So the data does not flow from design on through these other departments. And that's what gets in the way, and we really need a connected workflow to pull all that together.
So when we introduce Fusion Lifecycle, we don't have emails for storing critical information anymore. We still have emails that are automated notifications and reminders from the system, but we don't have to dig through them to find the information we need. It's easily accessible in Fusion Lifecycle. Also, you can get status updates just from looking in the system rather than scheduling a meeting or calling someone. Fusion Lifecycle ensures the right steps are taken at the right time and help people collaborate. And we use a middleware to connect Vault and Fusion Lifecycle to really bring that product together in its Vault PLM product. And
okay,
that
so I
makes
know...
That makes the collaboration of product data seamless.
Yep. And I'm sorry I spoke over you there, Harper. But yeah, what we're talking about here is just these big, broad ideas, right? This is great. We've got a connected collaborative workflow. We've got conceptual ideas how we want to do it, but we want to move a little beyond that for today. We want to take a look at some specific use cases where this would actually come into play. And Harper and I kind of got together and started talking through things that we had each seen at clients or areas that from our own personal experience had stood out. And we came up with 4 different areas that are very common with data transfers and having to work in a couple different worlds. So the first one is the idea of a project. And again, starting in the Wayback days, I'm using my CAD tools. Someone tells me what to do, and I did it. That's one of my favorite jobs. I didn't have to think too much. But where that came from somewhere, the idea of a new product or coming up with what we're going to design comes from somewhere. And so often it comes from a team or a group that's coming up with a new product. So what we'll see is we'll have a new product introduction that occurs in Fusion Lifecycle, and then that is going to create folders for me in Vault that I can populate with my models. And again, it's the middleware that's tying that together. Once I've got that portion complete and I've created my models and we're ready to push them to the larger organization for manufacturing, for review, for whatever else we would need, we're going to leverage some tools to that middleware to push this information to Fusion Lifecycle. And once we're in Fusion Lifecycle, to do an initial release on that with an ECO process.
Once that ECO is released, we can actually start manufacturing the product. But then we have downstream processes, right? Not everything is perfect and just ready to keep manufacturing. We're going to encounter a fit failure where we just can't get these parts to fit together while we're manufacturing. So we'll take a look at opening an NCR, a non-conformance, and figuring out that there's actually a design problem, and we can send this back to engineering and get this fixed so we don't have to keep encountering this issue. So once we open that NCR, figure that out, we're actually going to create an ECO, and then that's going to, again, work with Vault, move those files to WIP. I'm going to have Caleb modify the design for us, and then we can push that updated design back up to Fusion Lifecycle.
So we keep talking about this middleware idea, and we're going to refer back to this because we're operating in 2 different worlds. And you'll see versions of this diagram, and I'll just point out how to kind of look at it and what you see on it. What we'll see on the left side is what's happening in Vault, and on the right side, what's happening in Fusion Lifecycle. So we'll break this down before each use case, but the idea is we're going to run through the idea of a project, an initial release, finding a problem with the product that we have, and issuing a change order to fix that. And we're going to operate between these 2 environments.
So starting with our first use case, we'll take a look at a project in PLM. And again, project, new product introduction, NPI, those words are interchangeable. Once the project reaches a stage gate for engineering development to begin, then the integration will create a project folder in Vault. So let's take a look at what that looks like in Fusion Lifecycle. Just a tech check. Can you see Fusion Lifecycle now?
It's coming up great.
Perfect. All right, so here is our project. We've had a customer ask us to make a concrete polisher that can be remote controlled. Super cool idea. So you can see we've got our team defined here. The small company, I'm playing both roles. I'll be the applications engineer, and then Caleb will be the design engineer. I'll come back and play the same role as the manufacturing engineer later. So we've got this project in feasibility right now. Let's just take a look at tasks and deliverables, because it's a really neat thing that Fusion Lifecycle can do for us. Just aside from stage gates and workflows, it can also help us with some granular task management. We can assign tasks to people, track due dates, whether or not we were late or we're still on time, yellow is getting close. It's just a great way to help you get more organized with your project. Now let's take a look at this workflow. We are in feasibility right now, and we've figured out that we are good to go. We've figured out our requirements well enough. We're ready for engineering to start actually designing. So I'm going to push this over to development, and then I'm going to hand it off to Caleb.
Sounds good. So I will now share my screen. And I should have Fusion Lifecycle up. Is that correct, Harper?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, so what happens when Harper had moved to that gate? I may not have been involved with that initial NPI. I may have had some input into it in some of the meetings, but really now it's when it comes over to me that I'm going to start looking at what I need to do to design this thing. It's been already decided on what we're going to be designing. And what Fusion Lifecycle did when she moved there, we used the middleware. You'll notice I've got folders. These are project folders, and I've got templates set up so that it creates a folder for me, and it always creates the same set of folders under there. So when a new product or new project hits the gate of yes, we're going to make it, it automatically builds that folder structure for me within Vault, so I can go in and begin creating what I need for that. And in my case, you can see down here we've got the remote concrete polisher. That has been created in here. Of course, it's empty. It's up for me now to go fill that information in so that I've got all of the files that represent this and the models that pointed out. And this is, I'm going to pull up my Inventor here real quick. I'm not going to spend too much time in Inventor, but I just want to point it out. I just think this thing is cool. My brother is a journeyman concrete mason, and I've been drafted into a couple of side projects, a few driveways over the years. And finishing it's a little bit of an art, and it's an awful lot of work. And one of the worst things you can do is finish yourself into a corner. So the idea of having a remote-controlled concrete polisher, concrete finisher, I should say, my brother would yell at me for that, concrete finisher that can go out and you can just run it just using a normal, it looks like an RC car remote control. It goes around and you can end up right where you started so that you can lift that off pretty easily. It's a great design, but what a great product. What I'm concerned with right now is I'm looking down here at the trowels, and I'm just now finishing up the design of this. I've gone through, the NPI has been done, I've been working on this for a while, and I've just finished this. Matter of fact, I'm just going to finish up detailing it here while we're taking a look at this. And I just got one more dimension I need to throw on, and I'll be done for the day. So I'll finish that up. We'll go ahead and save that and check it back into Vault. So I've got my information created here. What I want to do now is have this released. I'm finally done, and as normal, I'm running a little bit behind. So I want to be able to go back over to my Vault and say, hey, let's get this thing done, because we need to get this out the door. So if I go take a look at that component, currently it's a work in progress piece that I have here. I can see that information. It's work in progress. And if you've used Vault before, you know that we have this idea of changing states. So I've got some gates in here that I can go through, and I can move this over. Notice I have a released state that's still within here. And typically that's what I would do within Vault. I would say, hey, let's release this thing. But really, that's only within Vault. That doesn't inform people outside of my engineering group. It doesn't really inform people within my engineering group. It stays entirely within my Vault and within my area. And that's very much how we would typically think. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move this to for review. And by moving it to for review, this is going to, that change on the lifecycle is going to trigger the middleware to synchronize that information and push it up to Fusion Lifecycle. So I'm going to jump over to Fusion Lifecycle here, and we'll have that file along with the other with some information about that file as part of it. So if I go in and take a look, I have a that component pushed up to here. It's part of it. So here's my trowel spider. I've got the same number that I had in Vault. The description comes across. It's being handled. That integration is taking care of pushing that metadata and pushing that information, even right down to the DWF that I have for the part and the DWF that I have for the drawing. Those got pushed up with it as well. And it knows that it is related over here to this assembly. So all of those links go together. That assembly has a clear understanding of how those different components fit in, where they're at. I can go look at that main component that I have. This is the main assembly that I was looking at, of just the trowel that's within there on the bottom. All of this information is in here. That's what gets populated from Vault. So we don't have to do a secondary rewrite on a bill of material. We don't have to take an Excel spreadsheet and dump it out of Vault and push it into another system. The integration that we have is linking that there for us already. So what I want to do is I want to get this done. Like I said, I've been working on it for a while, and I'm going to go through and do a change order that's going to be an initial product release that's on that. So I'm going to come along, and we'll say trowel assembly release. And I'm going to give it a high priority because I've been running behind. So let's make it somebody else's problem now. And then I'm going to say this is an initial release. It's going to say it's ready to go. And then we've been talking about, Jason introduced himself and Harper introduced herself. One thing I realized that we haven't pointed out is we are not co-located. The geography is fairly wide here, and I'm actually going to include someone else when I grab Jeremy, who's in Colorado. I want to have as part of this. So this is not, we're not, I'm sure it's difficult to imagine, but we're not sitting anywhere near each other. We're in separate states running these different things through here. So I'm going to save what I have. I'm beginning to create this, and the only other thing I'm going to include is I'm going to go to what affected item do I want to have to that. So you can see all the different things, and I can type in, and I'll just say I want that spider as part of that. So we'll go find that trowel spider. That's what I want to have as part of this. That's the affected item that goes on this particular release. And now I have an approval workflow that I can generate. And this is my initial release for this workflow, so I'm going to go ahead and submit that to review. And I'm just going to say, yep, that sounds great. Let's go ahead and push that on out. So that's my portion of it. I've created my components within Vault. I'm letting the integration take that on and move it on through the process that we have here. Now it's going to be on Harper and some other members of the team, including Jeremy, to do the reviews, to look at that information and see that. Now, we're doing this here very quickly, obviously. It's a very truncated, yep, it goes here, it goes here, it goes here. This may take hours, it may take days, but the concept holds true. I can push my information from Vault, submit it to others in my organization who very well may not be co-located with me, and now they can access that.
So I think Jeremy already approved to get us through check.
Yep, sure enough. So what I did here is I refreshed my screen. So upon refresh, we can see it's over here to the board review, and then we'll move it on down.
And now manufacturing has approved.
Okay, so we've moved through the Let me refresh that actually. Sure it's come through. Yep. Okay, so now we've moved to a new stage gate. So it's been approved through the different people who need to see that. And there's a whole lot of things we're not showing. The fact that you can get emails informing you of this. A lot of times I rely back here on my my recently viewed items, or you'll see my outstanding work as part of that. Those are all areas that we can see that's part of this. But the idea here is we've moved it through an approval workflow from a beginning to an end. And now that same integration that we had that pushes the information up also links to this. So this is another stage gate that then takes me back here to Vault, where that file is now released. So I didn't have to move through those steps. All I had to do was put it into review within Vault, and then the tools that take over from there to manage that change in a larger context, pushing it back. So the end result is the same, but we're including, Vault is really just a subroutine of a larger routine that runs through the organization for everyone to be able to gather that information and to accept that. Now, I'm going to pass this back to Harper because we're going to tell another part to this story. I've released my component. It's gone. It's moved up to the Vault. It's moved from the Vault to Fusion Lifecycle. People have acted on it within there. Now we're going to concern ourselves with what if a change needs to be made? What if we need to review this for quality? So I'm going to pass this over to Harper. I think I am. There we go. Harper, you are the presenter.
All right. Thanks, Caleb. So again, like I briefly mentioned, we are now making this product. It's on the assembly line, and we've run into an issue. So it's an issue with a specific component, and we are going to create a non-conformance record in Fusion Lifecycle. Add that item to the non-conformance record. It's actually going to be a link. And we're going to just take a look at that process and what that looks like in Fusion Lifecycle, and it's going to generate an engineering change order. Because it's so seamless to get over to the engineering change order and just keep going, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through that slide and that theory. So once it's on the change order, we're kind of starting at the bottom right of this slide. We've got our item added. We're going to walk through, if you noticed on our initial release, we skipped the work in progress step. We're actually going to go through that step this time. And again, it's going to do the same kind of thing. Caleb's going to modify the design, push it to review. It's going to update Fusion Lifecycle. When it goes to complete, it's going to release the files in Vault. All right, so let's look at our non-conformance in Fusion Lifecycle. Looking at our quality stuff. So I've already created this just to save your time. We've got this non-conformance where, you know, we have this pitch control lever and the bolt just consistently will not fit in the hole that it's supposed to fit in. Let's actually take a look at this item and see what it looks like so we can imagine what's happening on the assembly line. All right, looking at the item, it's already been released to production A, so we're going to look at what the version of this drawing looks like. All right, so it's this top hole here where there's a bolt that's supposed to go in there and it's just consistently not fitting. You know, we've got guys on the assembly line with their hammers out and it's not a good situation. We need to get this figured out. So we've logged the quantity of parts that are affected. It's causing us a production delay, and we've decided the follow-up process that we need to go with is just take it to an engineering change order, get that design fixed, and let's go. So I have the engineering change order. The system actually created that. You can see this non-conformance has already gone through its review. Here are the people who reviewed it and approved it. It's closed, and here's the change order that it opened. So we've logged on the change order. It needs to be it's a functional fix. That's why we're doing this change order. We actually pulled the description automatically from that nonconformance over to the change order. Again, Jeremy's going to be our peer reviewer, and we're going to pull in a couple of departments for review. And we may not actually walk through this whole change order, but that's the story of how this would go. Since it was created from a nonconformance, we've got that link back. So if anybody ever looks at this item, sees the change order, they can go back to the nonconformance and follow the breadcrumbs and see, exactly why this change was made. Looking at our affected items, we've got our pitch control lever already added. And then looking at our workflow, I told you we weren't going to skip WIP this time. We actually went straight to WIP, and the files, the integration the integration moved the files from release to WIP in Vault to open them up and for Caleb to start working. Also, like Caleb mentioned, there's a lot of stuff we're not showing. The system would send the email to Caleb for him to know that this is in WIP and he needs to start actually doing a design for this change order. So now I'll pass it over to Caleb and we'll take a look at Vault. And Caleb, just make sure you're not on mute.
I wasn't on mute. I just wasn't talking yet. No, that's an absolute lie. I was on mute the whole time and talking away. So thanks again. So so the idea is that change, once she hits that gate that we had there in the Fusion Lifecycle, the integration picks that up, and you'll see here I've got that pitch lever now as a file within my Vault, and the change has been made on that. It's a work in progress. It's even Rev B. So the same rules that I typically have within Vault, if I adjust to this, if I move to my from release to work in progress, automatically bump the rev, those are still in play. They're just being controlled slightly differently. So what I'm going to do is take that pitch lever and open that up and begin working with it. Again, I'll go back to my inventor here and go access that particular file. And I'll grab the pitch lever. I've got the information. I'll pull it up here and I can see what the issue is currently. Yes. So, I went a step far already. So here I've pulled it up and I'm beginning to make the changes where we're switching that from what we had, from the hole that we had in place. We're going to switch it back to this slot so that we can make those adjustments for that. I should be able to pop that drawing open as well, just to make sure that this comes in. Good, we're calling it out. That's where it needs to be. Awesome. And then I'm just going to check all that information back in. So I've gone through, made the updates, made the changes. We now have a slot that's part of that as opposed to a hole. That gives us just a little more play. We don't have to have that, the precision is what we were running into, and it was just enough to cause everyone some frustration. So that's a fairly simple change, and we'll run the next set of parts right along that way. Once I've got all of those changes and updates and different things edited, I now can take that file and I'm going to just run it right back through my process of moving it to my review. And I'll do that really quickly here where I say change the state. And I'll set it up to for review. And I've got our kickoff, just a quick process here. This is part of the integration that we have, and you see it's uploading and syncing and pushing that information across to there. So this will take just a second, and then I'll be able to go up and look in Fusion Lifecycle and see the different information that's been created up there. So we're leveraging existing tools, existing information, existing processes involved, but then we're adding to them by using Fusion Lifecycle to enhance what we're doing and have greater visibility across the organization into that. I just want to make sure that once that pushes it up, we'll have the information in place. So I'll just do a super quick search for my pitch lever. And there's my pitch control lever, so I can see that we brought that up. And I should be able to see the changes on there, assuming I've already pushed them up, which I think I have. I'm just going to double check. Yep, we're through. So we should have put that information should be up here. And now I can
Caleb,
pull that up and see it.
take a look at the working version.
Oh, did I pick the wrong one?
Yeah, let's go back to the item.
The item itself. Okay.
And then that drop-down menu with Rev A, the working version is actually what's on the change order and getting the
there
update.
We go. Yep. So we should. There it is. Okay. I was looking at that too. So this is. I would highly recommend having an expert like Harper around, because you will keep yourself from going down a few rabbit holes and being totally embarrassed when the wrong version comes up. So that's exactly it. We had Rev A that was up there. I've pushed this up, but as Harper pointed out, we haven't completed the workflow on it yet. We haven't gone through and released it in Fusion. So in my mind, I'm working on the Vault side. Hey, I pushed it to review. It's done. It's up there. But we had not completed that with Infusion Lifecycle. So that's where that was. So, yeah, excellent catch, Harper, for pointing that out, that we weren't quite where we needed to be yet. So while this comes up, I just want to kind of, there it is. We've got the new version. This is what we wanted to see. We had the old one where we had the hole. We've adjusted it. We now have the slot as part of that. Now, the rest, just like we saw before with the initial product release, we could go through the rest of the stages and release this one as well. Just for the sake of time, we're getting about quarter till the hour. You know, we're not going to go through every single piece of that. But those are kind of the big areas that we wanted to go through. The idea of walking through the concepts of doing initial product introduction, seeing that information show up in Vault. So we have folders we can begin to work in. Once files are created and they can be moved to a stage in Vault that then pushes them to the larger organization where they can be reviewed and released. Once something is on the line, going through and doing those checks and finding non-conformances, using non-conformances to spawn the idea of engineering change orders, and then taking those change orders, round-tripping them into Vault, changing file life cycles, making the changes and pushing it back. I hope you get an idea that it's using, with that middleware, it makes it seamless so that this does move back and forth pretty easily. And there's a lot to it in the setup, but once it's in place, it tends to run on its own in the background. So, Jason, I guess I'd ask you if you had any wrapper you wanted to put on that, or any other comments, and anything else as part of that.
No, great job. I appreciate you walking through. It's a lot. It's a lot of process to think about and to put together. So I appreciate the use cases. I hope that helped the audience really kind of get an idea of how this works. There's a lot of flexibility in this system. There's a lot of different things that it'll do, but I think these use cases are pretty solid from some of the core things that we do for a lot of our customers. From a moving forward, kind of a call to action, we did record this session, and we'll send this session out. So if you're interested in what you saw here today, please feel free to share it with your colleagues. Oftentimes we see that this type of a setup affects multiple departments. So if you're from manufacturing or engineering or sales or wherever, and you want to share with other people, please do. The other thing I would say is, if you have an account rep identified at Imaginet, contact them if you're interested in more information, or when you get the email from marketing with the recording, you could respond to that, and I'll see about getting any of our information, Caleb, Harper, or myself, reaching out to us and just kind of exploring whether or not this is a good or great fit for your company, and we'd be glad to walk through some of these things and kind of look at what you're doing today and how this may fit and enhance your company's workflows in the future.